Hello, friends, and welcome to the Exploring Washington State podcast. My name is Scott Cowan, and I'm the host of the show. Each episode, I have a conversation with an interesting guest who is living in or from Washington State. These are casual conversations with real and interesting people. I think you're going to like the show. So let's jump right in with today's guest. So I'm sitting down tonight with Marshall. Marshall, I hope I'm going to say it right the first time. Is it Petrini?
It's actually Petrini.
Petrini. Yeah. Marshall Petrini. I heard it pronounced a couple of different ways.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
What nationality is that? But
it's Polish.
Polish. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And to be fair, we've been pronouncing it wrong for most of our life as well. So.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. So Marshall is one of the owners of Greenwood Cider Company. Also, little known fact, you were a drummer in a funk band?
Yeah, me and my business partner Andy Short. He was the guitar player.
Okay, so we're going to touch on that, but we're going to start with Greenwood. But so what's your, let's go through your life really fast. Birth, school, cider. Where'd you grow up? How'd you get into cider? How's that?
All right, real fast. Born in LA, okay. Like most Washingtonians, and then me and my family moved to Bellingham. In Bellingham, did my primary school education, worked a number of odd jobs, including at a couple farms outside of Bellingham, Cloud Mountain Farm. So started getting a little bit inundated in the apple world.
Okay.
There, and then went to school, did music, did English, kind of floundered around a bit, as you do at a school like University of Oregon.
Oh, you're teeing me up. I'll pass.
And then found my way to Seattle, where I've been working in food for the last 15 years, and along the way, kind of fell into cider, and it started as like a home project and sort of got out of hand. So
okay, so I think as of this time we're recording, you are the first guest who was told he had to be on the show by his mother, your mom's past guest. And when we were talking before recording, she's like, "Oh, you need to have my son on. He does Greenwood cider." And like, well, let's talk. And she, and then I reach out to you, and then next thing I know, she's like, "Oh, did you reach out?" I'm teasing, but
she is our best salesperson. So
yeah, and but that's kind of also how I found out you were in a band. She wrote I saw a big article she wrote about your band performing in Bellingham, where she took a bunch of photos, and it was just, we'll go there later. But
all right.
So we're gonna drag you into the music thing. So. Why cider? What, if you were in the food biz, why did you gravitate into the cider space?
Well, so I was living with Andy, at the time. We were, mid to late 20s, and, just kind of a few broke musicians. So, I will go ahead and walk back into the music thing. Okay. A few broke musicians, trying to figure out how to make booze on the cheap. So I was working for a very small, at the time, very small, like home produce delivery company, and I was their only employee. And so any kind of leftover stuff I would take home,
okay,
and we'd press it and see how it turned out, and started doing a little trial batches with whatever we could find, other fruits, berry wines, things like that. So that's kind of how I fell into it. And then it just it was one of those things. Like next thing you look up and you're shipping cider all around the state, and it's like, oh, great.
Did you ever have any as a kid? Were you ever going to be entrepreneurial? I mean,
No, it was never something I wanted to do,
okay,
or saw myself doing. I'm very much like a worker bee type person, just put my head down, do the work. And no, it was a little bit, definitely a lot of luck, a little bit kind of just being kind of forced into it, I suppose, as well. Because I got a little bit of experience, like before we started our cider company, I was part of a food business that had we transitioned into a worker cooperative
Okay.
while I was there. So, or while I was, just kind of beginning there. So I kind of got to learn some of the business aspect of that pretty early on, and sort of applies to Greenwood cider, but also just kind of like I think made me feel a little more comfortable with the idea of like doing everything.
Okay. How did you, I mean, other than trial and error and broke musicians making cheap booze, which by the way, that is a common thread among cider makers. I've learned you're not the first one that I've talked to. It's pretty funny. And it's like, I was in college. I couldn't afford alcohol. I made my own. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. There's a reoccurring theme here, but what training? I mean, was it just completely, flying by the seat of your pants, or did somebody go and get cider making for dummies, or what was it?
It was a lot of trial and error. Yeah, it's still a lot of trial and error. When we started getting into it, we went and got all the books,
Mm-hmm.
got all the mainstays there where we can like kind of read. There was a lot of so this was almost 10 years ago now, and there still is a Google group where a lot of people kind of share cider things from really around the whole world. But really got a shout out to Rev Nat, and Abram from Cider at the time. He's now over in Norway making stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
a couple of Oregon guys who were sharing just everything that they knew about making cider and making cider like relatively cheaply in our region. So
Okay.
really learned a lot from them, and just trying to try to soak up as much of that stuff as we could, as much as people were willing to tell us. And then, yeah, just trying a lot of things and drinking a lot of things. And,
So
doing the hard work.
when did you realize that, hey, maybe we can sell this stuff? I mean, once again, we go back to the two broke musicians. When you started sharing it with your friends and, people you ran into, when did you guys all of a sudden realize that there was going to be a demand for what you were doing?
I remember one specific instance where we were making it at home still. We weren't in a business. We were still making it at home, obviously. And, I think I was rehearsing with a group of musicians, and someone I didn't know super well. And I remember we, had a few bottles of cider afterwards, and they were like, wow, this is really good. I would pay for this.
Okay.
And it was kind of like, that was like the first time I was like, oh, like that's the first time anyone said anything like that to me. And I was like, oh, interesting. Okay, maybe there's something there. And then, yeah. And also at that time, cider was really coming up as like a third beverage. It was coming up as like more of a thing that people were figuring out and leaning towards. So, I think we got into it at the right time, but we've been very slow and organic with our growth. That we're still very small and kind of relatively unknown.
Mm-hmm. Well, you might be relatively unknown to the general public, but your brand has a really good reputation within the industry.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. Yeah.
I was in Leavenworth the other day. I think when you and I talked on the phone, I had told you that I had never been to Bushel and Bee in Leavenworth.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And we ended up there, and none of your ciders were on tap at that time.
Okay.
But they carried some of your bottles. And so I was talking to the woman at the counter, and she was exceptionally complimentary. And there's been other cider people in the industry that have also, they hold your products in high regard. So you've got the endorsement of your peer group. How's that?
That's good. Yeah. I'll take it.
You'll take that. So what I got to imagine, I got this romanticized vision in my head that you and your business partners were sitting around probably a few bottles into cider, and you're like, I think we should open a business. What the hell? Somehow kind of think that's might how this might have just happened.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Okay. All right. So when you came to and you realized that you agreed to be a business owner, it's been super simple, right? Everything's gone easy. I mean, there's no complexity to it, getting
Yeah.
permits, getting licensing, selling
Yep.
alcohol. It's just everybody should do it, right?
Oh, it's a breeze. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why. No, I got to imagine getting set up was annoying at the best and horrible at the worst, but you obviously persevered because we're talking to you about it.
Hmm.
What were some of your early takeaways? Like, why am I doing this type moments?
Oh boy, I wonder that every day. uh, I think there's two things we really appreciate about doing this. Despite all the struggles, is one is the beverage. We just really appreciate cider and where cider has come in the
Mm-hmm.
the last couple decades, and where I think it still can go. I think is really exciting. You're kind of it's an old beverage. It's an old
Mm-hmm.
drink, but it's having a bit of
Renaissance.
renaissance here, and there's still a lot more room for it to be discovered and for people to kind of discover it. So that's one thing that's definitely like, we want to kind of see that through a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is the community. Like the community is fantastic. It's some of our good friends are part of the community. Some of our closest friends, and like it's just so welcoming. It seems like it brings in a lot of different people from all walks of life. It's not, I don't know if it's as snooty as the wine crowd, or as maybe as broy as the beer crowd, but
It
those are
seems
my
to
own.
walk a line between those two.
It
Those,
certainly does, and it,
yeah.
it seems to be how to put this. It seems to be, it doesn't take itself super seriously. Like it seems like it's not going to, like, there's a lot of room for discussion still in the cider world. There's not a lot of hard, fast rules.
Right. Right.
Um,
Okay.
and so I think when people are trying new things, people are willing to to try them. They're willing to give it a shot before writing it off and, like, calling it this or that. And
But I
uh,
also think that the industry, at least in my limited periphery to it, holds itself to a standard of growth in the sense that it's like we want to improve what we're doing. We want to improve the craft. We want to
mhm.
improve, you know, we made this. I see a little room for improvement. Let's tweak it. It's not complacent by any means, but
No.
it is, I think, very open to experimentation.
Yeah.
Like, you wanted to put pine needles in it? Hmm. I'll try it. Okay. All right. Whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
that doesn't work for me. Or, oh, hey, I wish I would have thought of that.
Yeah.
I think that overall it's still but I like the fact that it's taking itself with a sense of we want to improve.
Yes, for sure. It's
Yeah.
it's it's it definitely is. Like you can see that in just like what the ciders that were popular 10 years ago are versus what they are now. Or
Right.
like even the range of things you find in stores and places that like Bushel and Bee and things. It's like you see a huge range, and people are always constantly improving on
Right.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, having never been in there and it's just up the road for me in the grand scheme of things. It was a nice selection of ciders and beers.
Yeah.
Um, very cool. But no, I'm going to come back to that. I want to ask you more Seattle specific stuff
Okay.
in a bit. Where did you sell your first products? How'd you bring this to market?
Oh man, that's a funny story. So we didn't really know what we were selling in the beginning. So we had some cider that was probably far too good than it should have been, because we were of the mindset, the home brewer mindset. We're like, well, we're just gonna make this as good as we can. Who cares how long it takes? Who cares about the process? We're just going to make this cider the way we want to make it. And so we had this kind of like heritage sort of apple blend
Okay.
That we were selling on draft, putting in kegs for the first time and figuring that whole thing out. And
So
I remember
you didn't start selling bottles. You started selling kegs.
we did kegs for the first like 2.5, 3 years, I think. Just kegs of like, bars and breweries and some bottle shops that also do keg stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the bottles were not an initial part of the offering. We were really just doing it on the weekends, figuring it out, like
Okay.
just trying to figure out how to do this, how to make how to make ciders, how to sell ciders, how to make a business. So I was deemed the salesperson by the other business partners, in that I was the
Were you
least
not?
awkward
Were you
around
not
people.
at the meeting? Is that because you weren't there? They gave you the
I missed,
job. Is
I
that?
missed I missed the memo that day,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
there
So
was a quorum, and
you were sales. Okay. All right.
I got pushed into the sales role, which I've never sold a thing in my life, really. Maybe like a magazine subscription in elementary school for a fun run or something. But
Okay.
so I took a few samples up to Capital Cider, which is now called a Stir, which was a newish cider specific bar and restaurant on Capitol Hill
Right.
here in Seattle. Um, and I walk in there, I'm sweating bullets. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Hopefully, I just talk to the right person and pour some samples. And it's like a Thursday night. Like, I don't know what to expect. And I walk in, and there's like a bunch of people, and I have to like get the person I need to talk to over to the table and like, meet with him and crack the bottle. They're like, oh, let's crack some bottles. I'm like, all right, okay, we're just going to do this now. Like, that's fine. And it turned out to be a Seattle Cider tap takeover night.
Okay.
So there were all these people from Seattle Cider hanging about. And Seattle Cider this time, they were like, they're a few years in, already an established company. And so they're coming over and trying the cider. And I'm just like, oh, this is like, our first batch, like first professional batch. And I don't know what I'm doing. And all these pros are coming over and like tasting it. And yeah, it was, I don't know. I probably sweat through a couple pairs of clothes.
It's all good. You survived.
Yep. But that was the first sales call. Yep.
And they ordered?
They continue to order this day. So
Okay.
I've had a very long relationship with them. And a lot of it was, kind of going after the low hanging fruit first, people who I knew from like, my hometown or from the music industry or whoever working in bars and stuff.
Right.
And just trying to pitch them on it, have them try it. And yeah, a lot of them, over the years, like put a lot of faith in us and we, slowly figure things out and yeah, just continue to try to do something better every time. And yeah.
What you said it was a heritage. Do you think was that a heritage kind of blend that you took over?
Yeah, it was. It's actually the majority of that blend was from one tree that we now release a special like single varietal. It's called. We're 90% sure it's called Hollandberry Admirable. It's we haven't been able to identify it. We've taken it to several experts. The grower, the owner of the tree, has taken it to several experts. And it's
Wait. Are you talking? Are you saying it's coming from one tree?
Yeah, it's one 100+ year old tree.
One tree, not
One tree.
one acre, or
No,
but one tree.
one single tree. Yeah.
I've heard of single varietals before. I've never thought of them as coming from a single tree.
Yeah, well,
that's amazing.
This appears to be a lost variety as far as we can tell. It was, and the only reason we are anywhere close to certain that it's this variety is because it was documented in the pomological study at the turn of the century when this orchard was put in place, when this was homestead was built.
Okay.
And so it's very, and the way it looks in the watercolor and the way it looks, in real life.
Okay.
And the differences from all the other varieties that look and taste similar to it is just like, this seems like it's this apple. And maybe it's gone on another name now, and it might just be the same as some other russeted variety, but
Okay. Well, okay. Okay. Welcome to the rabbit hole.
Okay.
So this is your first commercial release. It's coming from it was blended with some other stuff, but how on earth did you guys source from one particular tree as a brand new business?
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought you would have been using a pretty common cider fruit. And we're going to talk about how you go around the Seattle neighborhood stealing apples from the neighbors I'm kidding. But how did you guys come across this? How did that happen? That feels like that's a cool story that needs to be shared.
We were always just scrounging for fruit. Like we were,
yeah, but still scrounging for fruit and finding one tree, man. That's like the needle in the haystack type thing. So there's got to be another. Come on, spill the beans.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those just lucky things where, like, I had a friend who had a friend who bought this property outside of Bellingham, and had all these apple trees on it, and he was just like, and pretty much, and he was like, he'd been there for a year or something by then, and he like knew which ones he liked, and he knew which ones he didn't like, and the one he didn't like was the one he didn't know what to do with, which was this weird kind of funky, russeted apple that didn't have a lot of juice to it. It was kind of had like a little bit of bitterness to it. It was like, it's not something that you would necessarily just like eat or turn into sauce or something.
Right.
So he was kind of like, I don't know what to do with this. Like it's a big tree. It's, and sometimes some years it has like close to 1,000 pounds on it. And so we were like, yeah, we'll come up and get it. And literally every year since, we go up there and pick, and he's done some extensive pruning to it to kind of cut it back, and some years there's like 500 pounds on it, but it's one of those old standard 20 to 30 foot tall trees, and
the old school apple tree, not the trussed up things that we see over here in Central Washington.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, so you said this tree, one tree, 500 to 1,000 pounds. How much cider does that translate to?
That one can be between like, that's only probably 30 to like 60 gallons.
So it's a real limited run that you're doing with that.
Yeah, that's a very limited run we do. And we've done things with that one where we have, we save a little bit from the year before, and we'll have like a slightly larger, we'll age one for like, 18 months and age the other for only 6 months, and then blend the two.
Blend them. Got it. Okay.
But yeah, and it's a very limited run. That one, like, we do all these things that are very limited, and it's probably a dumb idea.
It's
a lot of work, but it's
what's your tagline? Making cider the hard way or something like that?
Cider the hard way, yeah.
Cider the hard way. Well, sounds, now you're giving us good reason. I mean, that's okay. So it was just kind of connections that you had. A friend of a friend happened to be in Washington. The trees happened to be kind of local. You could go get the fruit, bring it back, press it, age it, make your magic. Okay. One thing you didn't say, you started the story. Seattle Cider Company was there. They were trying your ciders. What did those people say? It was their tap takeover night, and you're there. You didn't know. You were there pitching you're pitching a brand that on their tap. Yeah, but what did they say?
They all liked it. They were all very nice. They all really liked it, and I mean, none of them were like.
You didn't find your tire slashed in the parking lot.
No, none of that. I wasn't getting threatened in any way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. To be fair, it was a bit of a blur the whole night.
that's fair. That's okay. It still
But
makes a good story.
yeah, it was not what I was expecting. My first, it was a cold sales call. Like,
Oh, it was a cold call too.
yeah,
Wow.
I
Okay.
just I just walked in with a couple bottles to see if I could talk to the right person, and then the whole thing happened.
Those are the best stories, though. I mean, if we're being honest, those are the best stories. If you know, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you start there. They become your first account. Let's rapidly fast forward to April of 2024. Approximately, how many places are you guys on tap at any given moment?
At any given moment, it's probably around 80
Oh, okay.
places. Not
Okay.
a lot, but like, we're mostly in the Seattle area. We do a little bit to Bellingham, a little bit to Tacoma, a little bit to Leavenworth,
Mm-hmm.
Wenatchee. So, and a lot of it's rotational stuff, and
Right.
but I mean, I'm usually reaching out to 150 to 200 people every week or so. Just some people order, some people don't. Some people are just bottle people, grocery store accounts, that sort of thing. So,
And then bottles, and we'll reverse engineer it as of April 2024. How many places are you on for sale approximately with bottles?
oh, probably more. Yeah, probably like 100, 120 to
Okay.
100, 150-ish. I don't know. We're at Total Wine. We're at PCC
Okay.
here in the Seattle area. We're at Town and Country Markets. So we got a number of grocery stores we work with, as well as like pretty much every bottle shop in the area.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I have not even touched on the farmers markets yet.
Right.
But
All right. So let's go back though. You started with kegs. When did you start adding bottles into the equation? And what was the motivation for bottling? And I've heard a rumor that you're pro bottle, maybe not pro can. Um, um, but you guys made the choice to bottle. What was the motivation to go into bottles?
um, I think that was 2017. So we had been in the business for a couple years selling cider in kegs. And then the motivation was so my other business was a farmer's market food stand.
Okay.
Um, and so I already had kind of an in with the farmer's market community here in Seattle.
Right.
And I think they were, or certain markets at least, were looking for another alcohol vendor, another cider vendor. So that was kind of the motivation. Like, look, if we can bottle, we can start attending farmers markets. We're selling kegs wholesale right now, and
Right.
it'd be great to. And we've no plans for a tasting room even to this day. So it's a nice way to interact with the community and
Mm-hmm.
sell bottles directly to customers
So
and
it was
retain a little bit more
kind
of
of
that profit, right? So
inspiration was the farmers to get into the farmers market arena.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
What
and
was the
then
first
also
farmers market?
oh, I don't remember. It would have been we did. I think that first year we probably did like Lake Forest Park and maybe Columbia City. There was, I think, a couple organizations that we were working with, but it was probably no more than like four,
Okay.
maybe in the week, maybe less than that. Even I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look, but
So those, from my understanding of the farmers markets in the greater Seattle area, those two that you mentioned they're not like the Ballard. The
no,
Ballard, they're not. I mean that one's massive, but they're really good community farmers markets.
they are. They're
Yeah.
like your Sunday in the summer market that
Yeah.
people go for fresh produce and
Exactly.
things. So it's yeah, they're not big, but they're important to the community. So
Right. And how was the cider received at the farmer's market? You know,
Good.
okay. Well, I mean, see, a good friend of mine used to sell spice rubs at various markets around the Seattle area, and he struggled with how to sample the product. Like, how do you sample a spice rub?
Yeah.
So he worked through various iterations of how to do that. Some successful, some not. But he did real well at Edmonds and at Ballard. Those were two that he ultimately got into that did well for him. Were you able to sample? Are you? I don't remember. Can you sample alcohol at a farmer's market?
You can. You have to get a special endorsement from the Liquor Control Board, which isn't hard to get. But yeah, you can sample. You got those rules with like how much you can sample,
right?
And all that. But yeah, it's not super hard, but it is a bit of an education, both for the customer and for the people who are sampling. They got to know what they're sampling, why they're sampling it,
right?
And also, telling the story and giving the customer kind of the lowdown on what's going on. So that's a little bit of a thing, I suppose. But
well, yeah, you've got to, yeah, absolutely. So,
yeah.
Are you guys currently doing farmers markets?
Yeah. We're I think we're going to be at 9 a week this summer.
Really? And so now I'm going to put you on the spot. Which ones?
Okay, I should know this. Wallingford, Lake City, Snohomish. So we're getting a little further north. We're going to do a few days at Queen Anne, which is a new one for us. Finney.
Okay.
Edmonds, Shoreline, Magnolia, Ballard, Lake Forest Park, Capitol Hill. That seems like more than 9. So
does seem like more than 9. Yeah. but that's good representation. I'm teasing you. Why aren't you going south? Why aren't you going down to, say, Tacoma or Puyallup?
I would love to. Here's the problem. I would love to go to Tacoma. The problem is I would probably personally have to do it to make it work. And I've promised my partner not to work every day of the week, as is. So I'm leaving Saturdays off for, I'll get to Tacoma eventually. I love Tacoma. I love it. You can see that I'm wearing a Tacoma.
I know.
Now.
I grew up there. I get it.
Yeah.
I grew up. Yeah. It's a cool town in its own way.
Yeah.
How about Bellingham, though? I mean, because that's another big farmer's. Once again, probably the same thing. You'd probably have to be the one doing it, time off, etc.
Yeah, similar. I think, I had a lot of friends up there who did the farmer's market. And when we were looking into a recent or like previously, I think Bellingham's a little more specific with their rules. You kind of have to be either from Whatcom County or maybe they expanded to Skagit too now, but you kind of have to be located up there, which is fine.
No, it's kind of I forgot about that aspect of it, to be honest with you. Yeah. Okay.
It's a great market, but
all right. So we started the bottles to get into kind of the farmer's market. I'm on your website right now. And I'm going to have to count on my hands to see how many varieties you guys are currently selling. You guys carry, at least on your website, a lot of varieties. You're chuckling. There's got to be stories. Why are you guys just the mad scientists? You got to tinker or what's the backstory for all the varieties?
Yeah, it's a little bit of that where we always want to be experimenting. We always want to be doing new stuff. We always want to kind of be trying to new styles. So it's a little bit of that. That's more fun for us. And also, like I said, I was kind of forced into the sales position. So if we had just one product and I had to go out there and sell that one thing, I would probably be no good at it. I would probably be,
Would you be bored?
I would be bored. I would probably get fired
from your own company. Well, that happens. It does happen.
So it's more work to put all these things together, but it saves us I guess legwork on the sales side where we can present all these different things, and there's something for somebody. And if there's not, there will be something new next week. So.
Okay, as we look, I'm going to just start rattling. We've got your dry, we've got hops, fire roasted pepper, huckleberry, lingonberry, blackcurrant Asian pear, Seattle Scrumpy, which we'll talk about, community crabapple, which I want to talk about, plums and palms, hips and tips, red flesh, Hollandberry admirable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I gotta take a break. Jersey blend, Kingston blackberry, Scrumpy, barrel aged Seattle Scrumpy, barrel aged heirloom, and Kingston black. Okay, so of all those that I just rattled off, I'm gonna guess that maybe your dry is your bestseller.
Our dry by volume, our dry is our bestseller. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm gonna ask you a very hard question. What's your favorite? As of tonight, if you were to pop a bottle open right now, what would it be tonight?
On that list, I would probably pop open a Scrumpy.
Okay. So the way you said it on that list makes me sound like there's a secret menu, like if we're going to In-N-Out Burger or something. Is there?
Well, I mean, yes, kind of. There's, we're a small company, and I'm in charge of updating the website. So there are a couple things that aren't posted yet.
Okay.
Which are very good, and I'm liking because they're new. But and then we also do, in addition to all those bottles, we also do like 1 or 2 new draft flavors every week.
Every week?
Usually, yeah. Yeah, and these are small, very small batches. Usually test batches. Sometimes they get bigger, and sometimes they develop into full blown bottle offerings.
Right.
So yeah, it's some of that stuff obviously isn't making the list on the website, but the Scrumpy is magic, and I would drink that any day of the week. So
okay. Before we go down exploring Scrumpy, I'm going to put you on the spot with another question, but I love this question and I like to ask it of guests. You and your partners are sitting around. You're like, we should put a little of this with that. And, and it sounded good on paper. Care to share a failure? Like, has there been, I mean, I got to believe, if we're being honest, that there's been something that sounded better than it really was, but you learned something from the process too.
Yes. Yes. Pears in particular are a real pain, at least for us. We always struggle with pears. Last year we did a just pear, I think just D'Anjou pear, bottle and draft release, because it was the first pear that was suitable for consumption by itself.
Okay.
So we have other pear things that, like, the Asian pears are fine; they're a completely different beast. We do a lot of Asian pear stuff, but like every time we try to do a pear thing, it's usually we got to kind of blend it in with a little bit something, because it's just not good enough by itself. It's just like there's something a little off.
Okay. Right.
So pears, yeah.
Okay, pears. All right, good enough.
Some of that's we're doing the same thing and expecting a different result every time we do it, but we've talked with people who do like independent out in your neck of the woods. I've heard that they spent many years perfecting their pear recipe before it ever hit the market. So
yeah, over here in Wenatchee, well, they're in East Wenatchee, but Snowdrift Cider and their Perrys,
yes,
are kind of well known for.
They've got them dialed in for sure.
Well, and they literally, I mean, they're rotating when it's in the bottle, they're rotating the bottles to keep the like champagne, for the fermentation thing, and they're very that's something that they take great pride in, is their Perrys and all that. Okay, Seattle cider. Not a lot of trees in Seattle, so you're sourcing your apples from various places. And I'm reading off the website. Founded in the Greenwood neighborhood of Seattle in 2015, we turn waste into resource by making cider from forgotten and foraged fruits picked from around the city and deep within the Pacific Northwest forest. Cool. That approach continues today. In addition to the more standard Washington apples, we use apples from local farms, small homesteads, and abandoned orchards. We press and produce everything right in the city, keeping our hands in the process from start to finish, and the cider as local as possible. It's an uncompromising blend of modern taste and traditional cider making. All right.
Yeah.
Trespassing, man. Abandoned orchards. That's called trespassing.
And we've had the cops called on us. Yeah.
Oh, have you really? Oh my gosh. Okay. No. So walk me through harvest season for you guys. It's not like you're going down to Town and Country Market and buying a bin of Granny Smith apples and pressing them. It's not like there's a lot of trees in Seattle for you. And we're going to come to that a little bit, but there's not, it's not like you got an orchard in your backyard.
Yeah.
What's it take for you guys to source all this on an annual basis?
It's a lot of work.
Okay.
I say that I tell people that driving with me during harvest season is a very dangerous time because I'm often rubbernecking for every apple tree I see.
Okay.
And I usually got to pull over and grab it, see if it's ripe, see how it tastes.
Okay.
Label it, for later if I want to come back to it or whatever. But yeah, it's there's a lot of that. There's a lot of working with small orchards on the west side of the mountains. We tend to, there's a few people who work on the east side, but we tend to, just leave that for like the more traditional fruit, more standard table fruit stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like getting the perishable stuff while we can, getting as much unique stuff as we can.
Right.
Crab apples, whatever. We can go into the stuff around the city too, whenever you're ready for that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get there.
So it is a lot of coordination. It is a lot of like, having a grower call us on a Tuesday, being like, "Can you come get these apples tomorrow?" Taking the truck out there and getting however many they have. So it's a bit of running around. It's a bit of being like kind of all hands on deck for a few months.
Right.
And it's it's a bit of trying to remind ourselves why we do this.
So I'm drawing a connection between CityFruit, the nonprofit, and Scrumpy. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yeah, the Seattle Scrumpy and the community crab apple, and the plums and palms and the hips and tips,
okay,
are all city fruit related. CityFruit.
So let's talk about CityFruit. I interviewed with Seattle Cider Company, and they were doing a CityFruit collaboration.
Yeah.
And you're doing a CityFruit collaboration.
Yep.
For somebody who hasn't listened to that episode, who's maybe not in the Seattle area, what is CityFruit and why is it so important?
So CityFruit is a nonprofit that gathers up fruit from all over the city. They work with parks and private entities and people in their houses. They have a whole team of volunteers. They get a lot of people come in and help them pick for whatever events. They've got staff on hand as well, so they do a lot of just running around getting this stuff, trying to essentially make all this food not go to waste. They do a lot of giving to food banks. They do a lot of free food giveaways in various neighborhoods around Seattle. I think they still sell to restaurants and stuff, like the pretty stuff that they can get. I'm not entirely sure about that, so don't quote me on that. And then they also give fruit to people like us in Seattle Cider.
And you take it, and thinking back to my college days, thinking Spody, We just dump it all in and something found. There's a little more science here. I get it, but you don't get to go. Can we have 500 pounds of this and 100 pounds of that? You kind of get this here.
Mm-hmm.
You blend it together into something drinkable,
Mm-hmm.
and if I remember correctly, reading this, they get a proceeds from each sale.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a product that helps raise funds for a nonprofit that's trying to reduce food waste in the greater Seattle area. But how do you go from how do you make cider? How do you make something, delicious out of random, primarily probably, dessert fruit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of dessert fruit and things you probably don't usually want to be making cider with that make it into the mix. But there's also stuff that you do want to make cider with um, falling in there. So it's kind of, I don't know. We say that it's almost always the case that a blend is better.
Okay.
There's few single varietals that really stand alone enough to kind of be drinkable. And you can make a single varietal of anything, but a single varietal Red Delicious is not the same as a single varietal Kingston Black. So, um, and in most cases, a blend is always better.
Okay.
So yeah, and if you think of it that way, it's just one big blend.
Okay. All right. For the audience that we've mentioned the word scrumpy a half dozen times so far, what is your definition of a scrumpy?
Uh, our definition is kind of is like foraging these forgotten things. Stealing might be another term for it. A lot of the times, what we say is just it's indiscriminate. It's we'll take what you got. We'll take what we can get,
Right.
sort of thing. So I'm sure there's a different definition in the the motherland and England where the term comes from.
Well, so Google says the term scrumpy is defined as cider made from unwanted, undesirable, or fallen apples, and that typically has a high alcohol content.
Yeah, I mean, ours varies in alcohol content, but I think a lot of that is like leftover stuff, and that tends to be kind of, you're tired from the season, all this fruit is still falling, and that's the stuff that is usually has concentrated sugars and tends to be higher in alcohol. But we
I
kind of
actually,
use catch all for everything. So
I actually prefer your description of scrumpy here on your website. Your scrumpy 7.1. This is the marketing, folks. It sells this. We simply forgot what apples went into this batch. A true scrumpy. End of the season apples picked from an orchard in the Cascade foothills. This heirloom cider is robust and earthy with a strong apple aroma. We simply forgot what apples went into this batch.
it's true.
Truth in advertising. Finally. I love it. I have been chuckling at that this entire episode when I see it on my screen. I've been waiting to figure out how I'm going to bring that up.
I think this is what I mean when I say the cider world doesn't take themselves too seriously. It's like, we just forgot, like, and it's
but
fantastic.
it doesn't. But here's the difference: you just forgot, but it still tastes good. It's not like we forgot and we don't care.
Yeah, right.
It's still Now we could go on and on and on about your cider process, but the last probably technical, please explain your reasoning question is barrel aged. You've got the heirloom, the scrumpy. I think those are the only two I'm seeing right now. What type of barrels? Because I don't have that open. What type of barrels are you aging in? And why do you think barrel aging is becoming so popular?
I'll answer the second question first. I think it's popular because it's good. It adds complexity. It adds a different flavor to it. From a business standpoint, you typically can charge more for barrel aged things. You tend to get some residual alcohol from the wood leaching out. So ABVs get to be a little bit higher. It just becomes a more complex drink.
Right.
So that's one reason. And the barrels we typically use, we love bourbon barrels.
Okay.
When we can get them. But we also work with Westland here in Seattle. They make a fantastic, they make several fantastic whiskeys, but they do, we've used, I think, a couple of their single malt whiskey barrels. We've used their peated whiskey
Solid.
barrels. So they do and typically with that one, we'll do a peach cider in the peated whiskey barrels, and that's got a serious cult favorite going on.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah. Ooh. When's that come out?
Well, we don't have any in the tanks right now, or in the barrels. So that's a barrel exchange program that they do. So it's kind of up to them what they have available, and I'm not sure how much they're doing it anymore. So on the flip side, presumably they will be coming out with a Greenwood cider focused whiskey release, which probably will be in the next year or two. I don't know or maybe they won't. Maybe they're like, oh, this is garbage. We're just gonna eat this one. But so yeah, but the peat, we call it peach with a T in the middle, which some people pronounce peach. So, but there's some serious lovers of that cider, and yeah, it's like what you're saying. People are like, when is it coming back?
Right.
But yeah, and then we do this winter we did a cherry cider in, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's ginger barrels. It's a Portuguese liqueur that Woodinville whiskey aged a bourbon in. So it had bourbon in it, and it had this cherry Portuguese liqueur that we then barrel aged a cherry cider in, which was fantastic. So it's kind of, like we said before, whatever we get our hands on, we're willing to try and throw it in, and then sometimes we'll also do, after the barrels have been used once and gotten all that flavor out, we'll try to do like a Cidra, an oak fermented thing in those second use, kind of closer to neutral oak barrels. But
okay. All right. So you've got some curated cider boxes, 3, 6, and 12 bottles. People can, we're going to put a link in the show notes. They can go to your website, find it and all that. Also, if I'll put a link to a couple of the places that I know your stuff's at on the west side and on the east side, so that, if you're in the area, should check it out. But I want to, I think we squeezed all the juice out of that. Sorry, that was bad. But I want to talk, because I wasn't prepared for this. A funk band? I was listening to some of this stuff. And how did you started this? Okay. From your mom's article, you started this in middle school, right? And
yeah.
Okay. Are you playing now? Are you playing publicly now?
I am not.
Okay.
I had a group before the pandemic that was starting to play, and then the pandemic happened. And people had kids, and people moved away, so that group kind of split up. And drums are a little bit harder to kind of make work on, like I'm just gonna practice these in my apartment sort of situation.
Yeah.
So, but I don't play publicly really anymore. Andy still does.
Okay.
He's a guitar player, and he still plays quite a bit. He's got some friends who still utilizes his services, and he plays around town. So,
but how did you go the funk genre?
The funk genre. So yeah, when I was a very young person in middle school and early high school. Yeah, just really got into funk music.
But this was in Bellingham, right?
Yeah, this is in
Which is
Bellingham.
not exactly the funk capital of the Pacific Northwest.
No,
It's not, you know.
yeah, it's not. I mean, it's like a town full of mostly white people, and it's like, it's like at a college, and there's some like eclectic people there,
Yeah.
but it's like it's not. It's not. It's not necessarily a music mecca either. They do a lot of music stuff. Well, they do a handful of music stuff now, but
Yeah.
it's a small town.
Yep.
But there were a few people that were like kind of doing it. They were like, I think they were college age when we were in high school. They were a few years older than us. They were kind of doing some cool stuff. And my buddy who lived down the street from me, one of my great friends from however long I lived in Bellingham, he was got really into music. He kind of he kind of I don't know if you can think back to the middle school days when you're in like you're getting put into orchestra or band or whatever, and they're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of give you an instrument to play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't public schools being what they are, you don't exactly have a choice. So it's like he got handed a tuba.
I got handed a baritone. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but he ended up taking that thing all the way to getting his doctorate.
Really?
Yeah. So
I gave it up as quick as I could. Like,
I'm not
oh,
sure. One of those is the smarter move. I'm not sure which, but
well, to his credit, he stuck with it. I mean, that's awesome.
yeah, and he grew up down the street from me. And we were best friends for a long time and played music. He's lives in Switzerland now, and he's playing gigs in castles and stuff. But
okay.
so, but he was very into funk music too. We were all had our little kind of dorky funk niche that we were doing, and
see what I like about that is like it's just not mainstream in the sense that it's great music, like, but as a middle school kid in Bellingham, if I were to ask the question of the audience, what style music did Marshall play in middle school? Funk would not have been the popular choice answer. So I like that it's kind of different.
Yeah.
I like that it's kind of creative. I'm not making fun of you. I'm actually thinking this is pretty damn cool. All right. So maybe you should, practice the drums again and get back in. I don't know.
Yeah, I should.
I mean, you got plenty of time. You get one day off, right? You just,
yeah, exactly.
Come on. All right. So when you're not running a cider company, when you're not ninja fruit picking, when you're not, driving around, sales calls, delivering kegs and bottles, what do you like to do for fun?
I like to get outdoors. It's kind of a cliche answer, but hiking's great. Camping's great. I do like to be active. I got a soccer team here that I really appreciate. It's a good weekly event. Gets a little heated in a rec soccer league.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
and I like to garden. I got a little garden going, a little vegetable garden going, and it's back to kind of like I'd rather just pick my own food than buy it.
Fair enough. So where's a great hike you like to go on? What's a little known hike that's now you're going to share it, it's going to become popular, but what's a little known off the beaten path hike you like to go on?
Off the beaten path.
Yeah.
Well, this one's not so off the beaten path, but it takes some convincing to do. Let's just say it's out in your neck of the woods. Actually, it's Minotaur Lake, I think is the name of it. It's off of Highway 2, outside of Leavenworth.
Okay.
and it's a short one. It's
Hmm.
probably like 4 or 5 miles round trip, but it's straight up. It is the stair climber sort of thing. But when you get up there, there's this beautiful, pristine lake,
Okay.
and it's just gorgeous. It's a lot. It's a quick one, a hard one, but a big payoff in my
Okay.
mind,
All
and
right.
quite nice. So,
See, my idea of a hike is going up the stairs from my office to my upstairs. And so, but so last weekend, I went over the North Cascades Highway for the first time. Lived
oh
here
yeah,
all my life. Never been over the North Cascades Highway before.
hmm
So opening day was on Friday, drove east to west. And then on Saturday, turnaround came west to east. And that's amazing. I'm sure you've been up there if you like to camp and all that. Have you been up there? If you haven't, you need to go.
I haven't gone the whole distance. No, I've
Oh,
gone to Ross Lake.
oh yeah,
That's as
beautiful.
far
The
as
whole
I know.
area up there is beautiful. But
Yeah.
did you, coming from the west side, have you ever been to Northern State Hospital?
I've heard of it.
Okay.
I
So
don't think I've ever been. No.
so I stopped there about 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. Beautiful morning, blue skies. Right. This is the important part: is blue skies.
Yeah.
And there's all these old, decrepit farm buildings.
Is
Okay.
this outside of Cedar Woolley?
Yes.
Yes, I have been there.
And what I got a kick out of was these things are falling down. They're graffiti. I think the only thing holding them up is the paint on the graffiti. And there's just these polite signs outside the buildings. These buildings are unsafe. Please don't enter. But they don't board them up. You can walk right through them.
Yeah.
I was amazed. And then there's this one, I was walking around, there are great trails out there, and
Yeah.
I'm not in particularly great shape. So I was getting a little, like, okay, how am I going to get back? I hope somebody can come and carry me. But they've got a disc golf course out there.
Yeah.
Okay. But there's this one building that looks like an old 2-story farmhouse that's falling down. And it's just, it's bad looking. But right next to it, they've mowed the grass because it's the fairway for the golf course. And it was just like this. I'm not going to say it's not a golf course maintained, but it's, somebody with a riding tractor's gone through and knocked everything down, and it was freshly cut. And yet 6 inches to the left is just this shack that's caved in on itself.
Yeah. It could fall down any moment.
And I was freaked out, and it was a blue sky out there. I don't know that I'd ever want to be there with gray, cloudy weather, because this guy showed up, I swear, out of nowhere, and he was wearing all black, and he was jogging, and it freaks me out. Like, what? That's a cool, and it's beautiful out there. It's absolutely beautiful. And so that's not too bad of a jaunt for you.
No,
to get out there.
Lots of stuff. Yeah, a lot of trails around there. It's very funny. It's a very weird place. Like you mentioned, there's like there's like people out there, but then they just kind of like show up out of nowhere because they're hiding in a building or come around a bend, and it has a very ominous sort of feel with that.
So, some standard questions. You're living in the Seattle area. I love coffee. Where's a great place for me to go to get coffee?
Oh, well, so I don't really do caffeine too much more. It doesn't sit well with me. But when I did,
okay.
I was living on Finney Ridge, and I go to Herkimer.
Okay, solid.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a good spot, and I would love to go back there any day. So,
all right. Okay.
But the city. There's good spots anywhere.
Seattle. I mean, you can't turn around. All right. But I also like to eat. It's around lunchtime. Where's a great place for lunch?
Oh boy, that's a little harder. Great spot for lunch. Went down to Marco Polo in Soto. They've got a fantastic fried chicken.
Okay.
That was good. We were, we'd always kind of lived in and around the Greenwood neighborhood, and there's a cafe up there called, a pub called Duck Island Ale House, and they did a pressure fried chicken.
Okay.
And so they closed during the pandemic, and we were kind of looking for something ever since. And Marco Polo that's a good spot. Marco Polo for fried chicken.
All right. So now let's pair that fried chicken with one of your ciders. What would be a good cider to complement that?
I would probably go with the dry or the Seattle Scrumpy. Probably just a couple easy drinking,
Okay.
relatively light ciders.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Two last questions.
Okay.
I'm gonna go in my reverse order. Okay. So you have to answer this question. You can't dodge it. You can't say no, thank you. And you have to explain your reasoning.
Okay.
All right. Cake or pie, and why?
Oh, I'm going cake.
Okay. Why?
I'm going cake. Frosting.
Hey, the truth of this is
butter, maybe, I don't know.
There's no wrong answer here, by the way. I mean, you're not, you're not being judged. You're not, okay. So what type of cake?
I'm a big fan of lemon cake.
Okay. Solid.
I like something with some acidity to cut that sweetness, but
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So last question is kind of two-part. What didn't we talk about that we should have? And while you're answering that, tell the audience where they should find more about Greenwood Cider online.
Okay. What we didn't talk about. We talked about a lot.
Well, I just want to make sure we didn't skip something that's super. Oh, actually, here's a question. I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah.
We're recording this in April. It'll come out in May, sometime of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
What seasonal release is coming out? What do you guys bring into market late spring, early summer?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you asked this question. So we'll have our summer cider, our summer seasonal, which is called Blush. It's strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries. That usually comes out on Memorial Day. Sometimes we push it to like Mother's Day when a lot of the farmers markets are starting. So it comes out mid-May.
Okay.
And it's just a big old berry cider. Very, very tasty. Always does very well in the summer, but we're also, and you might be getting the scoop here, Scott, coming out with a Cosmic Crisp in bottles.
You can do Cosmic Crisp, huh?
We mess with everything. So.
All right.
So we're trying a Cosmic Crisp. We've done it before. It's a very easy drinking cider.
Yeah.
Not super complicated, not super fussy. And we've got the label all made up, and yeah, that should be coming out mid May as well. So
that apple was grown here down the street from me.
Mm-hmm.
We've had them on to talk about the whole process of bringing an apple to market. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And WSU's cranking. They got another one ready for market now. They're coming. Yeah. They're trying to name it. Okay, so you're doing okay. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I tried that. I've been wondering if somebody was really gonna,
Well, the funny thing about the licensing, since it's a trademark, it's I'm sure you went over with them the whole marketing campaign and all that side of coming out with a new apple. So the funny thing about that is it will be just us in 2 towns out of Oregon, which I know you love Oregon.
We'll be better.
We'll be the only people making. Yeah, right. We'll be the only people making Cosmic Crisp ciders in packaged format.
Okay.
Really, yeah. So.
All right. Well, that's cool. And approximately when will that be hitting?
I think it'll be mid-May. Yeah, it'll probably be the 2nd or 3rd week of May. Yeah.
That's very cool. That's exciting. And so, where's a great place for people to find you online?
Online, you can find us at our website, greenwoodcider.com. Another great resource is PrestonPress.com. They are they're a Seattle online retailer, so they get a lot of stuff from really all over the world now, but a lot of stuff from our region, Canada, the rest of America, and they ship it all over, mostly all over America, all of the United States. So they've got a lot of our stuff. And yeah, if you're in the Seattle area, farmers markets, any of those 9 to 20 farmers markets I listed, uh, or your local bottle shop in this area, or
Awesome.
yeah, out in your neck of the woods, Bushel and Bee, Leavenworth Cider House, sometimes on tap at McGlynn's.
Yeah. All solid places. Well, Marshall, thank you so much for sitting down with me tonight. Normally I record these during the day, so it's interesting to do a early evening for me. It's a good time for I'm like, maybe I should do more of these, but thanks a lot and continued success. And we'll tell your mom you were on the show, and then she'll
she'll be proud.
Yeah, she'll be proud. All right, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Hope you enjoyed the show. You can reach me on Twitter at ExploreWaState. I'd love to hear your comments. You can also visit our website at explorewashingtonstate.com. If you know anyone who would like the show, it'd be amazing if you'd share the show with them. This is the biggest way that we grow this show. Good old word of mouth. Glad you were here with me today, and I hope to have you listening to the next episode. See you then.